This is Reiwa Gaming Matt. And now, a look forward to the second half of the gaming year 2020.
Hello everyone, Matt here, and welcome to part 2 of my look midway through the year 2020. Now yesterday I did a video talking about the first 6 months of the year, all the games that really stood out for me, all the news that stood out for me, and also games that I liked and didn't and disliked. So pretty much the same thing I just said just a minute ago. I don't know why I just reset that again. Anyway, that was the first half of this year, and now it's time to look ahead to the second half of 2020. As I said before, it's been a crazy year. A lot of things have happened. A lot of things are still happening that is going really weird. This half of the year was supposed to be, for me, one of the happiest moments of my life, where the Tokyo Olympics were going to happen in this July. And for me, one of my biggest dreams in my entire life was to go to the Olympics. And I wasn't able to go to any other Olympics that were held in places that I lived nearby before. And this time, the Olympics were very close to my home. And unfortunately, they have been postponed due to the virus. Hopefully, they happen next year. But thankfully, there are a lot of games, particularly this month, that are coming out that has me excited and is trying to help in dealing with all the disappointment that's happened this year. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to talk about the games that we know that are going to come out this year that interest me. I have about 8 or so, I think. I have to, maybe some more than that. And some games that also should come out this year, but we don't have dates for them yet. So we're not 100% certain on that. And we'll talk about each one in little briefness. And then at the end of this episode, I'm going to give my predictions for the rest of the year. I'm going to say a few things that I think are going to happen, because quite honestly, we really don't know a lot about what's going to happen this year. 2020 is sort of a weird year where there's still a lot of information we just don't have. We don't really know a lot that's coming out this fall. There's a lot of unknown dates, a lot of known information, and we're going to be getting some of that in the next couple of weeks with a lot of the shows that were delayed from E3 now happening in July. But let's get started here with the games I'm excited for the rest of the year. And we're going to start off with what came out today. In fact, I have it right now. I'm going to go ahead and show it to you. Catherine Full Body for the Switch. Yes, the game came out today in Japan. I believe it comes out next week in the United States. Now, this is actually a game that came out last year on the PlayStation 4 and I believe the Xbox as well. Unfortunately, I didn't buy it then because it was very expensive, especially with all the DLC for the extra voices. And thankfully, this version apparently has all the voice tracks in it for all the multiple voices for one of the Catherine characters, I should say. They got a lot of famous people to play the character, and you can choose whatever famous voice actor you want to listen to, which is really, really awesome. But unfortunately, this game doesn't have English on it. Not a huge big deal for me. I can understand Japanese, so I can play it. And I played the original game, which was fantastic. If you don't know what Catherine is, it's sort of a mix of a puzzle game and a bit of a visual novel. And it deals with the main character who's having trouble dealing with his life, his love life, with a character named Catherine. And another Catherine shows up that... very sexy girl that he seems to have some interest in, but he's really conflicted. And the game has 2 aspects to it. Number 1, how you interact in the game, how you answer questions will determine which path you go on, which Catherine you choose. And also a really awesome puzzle game where you have to climb basically a wall of boxes from the bottom to the top. And you have to get to the top before you're chased down by some evil monster, evil villain that's related to the situation of the story. Kind of like a Persona type thing. And it's really cool. You have to pull boxes out in the end to try to find a path to be able to get up on this tower. It's a very unique, interesting puzzle game. It has a nice multiplayer aspect to it. It was a lot of fun on the PS3. And now I have the extended version with extra stuff, new character in the middle, and a lot of other things as well. So I'm looking forward to playing that today. Hopefully I can get to it. I have a lot of games on my slate for today. Now, also coming to the Switch in just a few days, something like 8 or 9 days from now, is Deadly Premonition 2. The sequel to one of the craziest, strangest, and most unique video games that has been released in the last decade or so. The game originally released in the West on the Xbox 360 only, although it was released on the PS3 as well in Japan. And eventually it did spread to the PS3 in the West when they had a re-release, and now on the Switch as well. It is the best way to describe the original Deadly Premonition is it's kind of an open world game. You're a detective who has to solve these strange set of murders in a northwestern American town. And if that sounds a lot like Twin Peaks, well, it should, because it's very obvious this game has been heavily influenced by Twin Peaks. Deadly Premonition, in fact, I would say particularly the first half of the game feels almost like a one-to-one copy of Twin Peaks, but then it goes on its own thing toward the second half, and it gets even stranger and weirder, and the story is so unique and so interesting, and the characters are so funny and weird, just like Twin Peaks was, that the game really got a nice cult following. And it was a very janky game. The company that made it at the time, I can't remember what it was, but the game was made by a man named Swery, and it's obvious it's a game with a low budget. It's obvious that they couldn't get that AAA polish into it. But even with all those little faults, like problems with graphics or funny dialogue or strange missions that kind of feel weird or strange design monsters, it was able to like succeed and go past all those problems to become something special. And for many people, Deadly Premonition was literally a 10 out of 10 game. For a lot of people also it was a 0 out of 10 game. For me, it was one of my favorite games of this past 2 decades. It definitely was one of my favorite PS3 games. A game of the generation in many ways. Not the game of the generation, but a game of the generation. And now, after all these years, we're getting a sequel, Deadly Premonition 2. Apparently it takes place before and after the events of the original game. I don't want to go too much into the story because obviously we don't know a lot about it, and I don't want to talk about any spoilers for the first game if you never played it. But again, you go in and you be able to play as the original character, Francis York Morgan, which is very interesting if you played the first game. If you've never played Deadly Premonition, I highly recommend it. It's available on the Switch now. You can also play it on the PlayStation systems. I think you can play it on PlayStation 4 as well, but I'm not sure. No, for certain PlayStation 3. But absolutely, Deadly Premonition 2, going to be a huge game. And then a week later, we have another huge game from Sony, and that is Ghost of Tsushima, coming out on July 17th. Now this game, I believe from Sucker Punch, if I get it right, I'm trying to remember everything off the top of my head, was a game that was shown off 2 years ago at E3 along with a lot of other great games that really wowed us. And it's an action game that takes place in the world of feudal Japan during the Mongol invasion, and the main character takes place, his story takes place in the island of Tsushima, and it sort of deals with that whole Mongol invasion that really did happen. I've been keeping my eyes off this title, not because I'm not interested, but it was because I didn't want to see any spoilers. But everything I've heard, it sounds really good. I really like the fact that they're trying to make you use the environment to be able to figure out where to go. So for instance, the wind direction and the way you see leaves moving will tell you where you should go next in the game. And there's so many great looking graphics. The gameplay looks very good. Word is it's actually kind of a challenging title, and it looks and sounds great. Now this game was supposed to come out last month, but was delayed when The Last of Us 2 got delayed into June. It took over Ghost of Tsushima's spot, so it had to be pushed back a month. I really didn't like that. I thought that was really unfair to Ghost of Tsushima that they had to wait an extra month to release their game. But hopefully the game is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. I need a new good action adventure game to play, and that one looks fantastic. And then at the end of the month, there's 2 Japanese games that are coming out. I think one of these is actually coming out in the West too, at the same time, which I was kind of surprised. And that's Mobile Suit Gundam Extreme vs. Maxi Boost On. It's a very long title, but basically all you need to know is it's the Gundam Versus series, which has been a very popular arcade series in Japan. And there's not many big arcade games in Japan these days, but the Gundam Versus series has always been a big one, and it's done a very good job going on to the console systems over the years. Now, if you don't know what the Gundam Versus series are, it's basically a team battle system game where usually it's two mobile suits versus two mobile suits, and you can pick any mobile suit you want basically from pretty much every series that you want. So for instance, if you want to pick someone from Gundam Wing versus Turn A Gundam versus Gundam Unicorn versus Gundam Seed, I don't know why you would pick Gundam Seed because that series is terrible, and if you don't agree with me, too bad, because it is one of the worst Gundam series of all time. But anyway, it's popular in Japan and it's popular in the West. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that you can pick any character, any series you want, and you can pretty much get the character you want to fight in, and the mech you want to fight in, I should say, not the character you fight in, that's strange, the mech you want to fight in. And you can have these great mech battles in these wonderful city environments that are inspired and taken from the anime itself. Great action, great graphics, great sound. It's always been a fun series. And this is the newest version of the game that came out a few years ago in the arcades, now getting a full upgrade into the PlayStation 4. On the same day, now this is a game that's not going to be really a big title, but I'm interested in it because I like the company and I like the game that this is apparently based on. It's called Root Film. And it's from Kadokawa Games, and this apparently is a game that's based on the Root Letter series, which was a visual novel game. That was really, it was a really interesting visual novel about a man who had received a lot of pen pal letters from his time in high school, and he'd forgotten about them. And as he was cleaning his house one day, he finds a letter he'd gotten from his pen pal, a final letter he never realized he got, and he never opened it. And he opens it and he finds a very strange message from the person that he was talking to, a young girl student in another part of Japan. And he goes there to try to find this person, to try to find her and try to be able to talk to her and figure out what happened. And it's a very interesting visual novel. Some people don't like it, but I always had a good time with it. And apparently Root Film, it's I don't know a lot of the details of the story, but apparently it's kind of based off it. I think it's about making a movie about the game or something. Something like that. But it does take place apparently in the same place. It does have a different graphic style, but this is one I'm definitely interested in seeing since I liked the first game. So hopefully that one also gets released in the West eventually, and probably will. And there you go. Now, in August, only one game has me interested. That's August 27th, and that's The Legend of Heroes Hajimari no Kiseki. Now, I know what you're thinking. What is that? Well, The Legend of Heroes, you notice that the Trails of series, for example, Trails of Cold Steel or Trails in the Sky. And this is the latest version or the latest chapter in this long-running Trails saga. And it's supposed to be one that's going to bring us close to the finale of the current Trails story, the one that's been going on since the mid-2000s. And, this is going to be a game that's only going to be available in Japan for a while. I have the entire Trails series, and I'm trying to get through them right now. And I'm obviously going to be playing this game once I'm done with it, and hopefully I will be done with all those other games in time to play it. It looks fantastic. It's from Falcom. Falcom is one of the best Japanese developers there is. They make great RPGs. They make great anime-like games. They make the Ys series. And this is going to be a definite good title. All the games in this series have been good. So hopefully American gamers and Western gamers will be able to play it soon, but they're about one game behind, I believe. The Trails of Cold Steel 4 is only coming out this year, and that came out in Japan, 2 years ago. So it's going to be a while before maybe we'll see that. Now on September 4th, we have Marvel's The Avengers coming out on PlayStation 4 and Xbox, I think PC, but I'm not sure, coming out from Square Enix. Now this has been a little bit of a controversial title. There's a lot of questions about what you can do in this game, what characters you can actually play as, what's the online component, is it a single player game, is it a multiplayer based game? Obviously it is apparently a games of service game, so we're talking about a game that's going to be able to continue on past that single player story. We know we can play as Miss Marvel, and we can play as a lot of other characters in the Avengers universe, like Hulk and Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor and Black Widow. It seems like a lot of people are saying that the story mode is mostly Miss Marvel, which doesn't bug me because, hey, I like to learn more about that character. And we've seen in trailers other characters showing up as well. So hopefully they're now starting to unveil the game more. It looks interesting. It looks fun. And I'm a big fan of Marvel, and the last couple Marvel games that have come out, obviously from different companies, have been great. I hope that this one pulls another great Marvel game out of its hat. We'll see. We'll see about that. Then on October 2nd, a more recent game was announced. I did a video on it. Star Wars Squadrons, a new flight simulator, dogfighting Star Wars game in the Star Wars universe that takes place after Return of the Jedi. And this is a game that I immediately was jumping on toward. I was like, yes, absolutely. We've been wanting a new game that was like X-Wing or TIE Fighter, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, that whole series in the 1980s and 90s. Or I say it's just 90s. It wasn't 80s, I don't think. And we've been waiting a long time for it. We've kind of gotten into these dogfighting simulating parts in the Battlefront games, but we didn't have like an actual title that just dealt with that. And the best part about this game is that it's going to be PSVR compatible. The entire game can be played through PSVR. Now, if you have a PlayStation VR, you probably have tried out the Battlefront. The first Battlefront game's VR mode, which was a entire mission in a X-Wing fighter. It was completely awesome. It was so cool. So to have an entire game where you can, in VR, fight with inside a lot of the cockpits of great Star Wars vehicles, it's just going to be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait for it. I love a good space shooter, and I love a good space shooter in VR. So absolutely, that's going to be a good one. And the best thing is also no microtransactions, so that's great. Now, November 19th is probably my second or number one most wanted game this year. It really depended on where I put Final Fantasy VII. I can't remember where I put it. But it's been the often delayed and highly requested and incredibly hyped Cyberpunk 2077. What else can be said about this game? It's CD Projekt Red's newest title. It is an RPG that takes place in a cyberpunk world. We've been waiting all year for this. It was supposed to come out in April. It was then delayed into September and just recently delayed into November. But we've just got a great little show showing off the cyberpunk world for the first time in more detail. A lot of people got the chance to play the game in the journalistic world for 5 hours. It's been nothing but great hype and emotion and news. A lot of people are saying the game is worth all the hype. The story is interesting. The characters are interesting. The character creation is really cool. And a lot of the battling, particularly shooting, is really good. I need a good RPG and a good Western RPG. It's been a while since I played a really good one for myself. So I'm looking forward to playing Cyberpunk 2077 when it comes out. Hopefully it comes out November 19th. I really don't want another delay. I think it was delayed in November, not only just to fix bugs, but also to come out when the new systems come out. But we'll get to that in my predictions. Now, those are all the games that we know are coming out this year with dates. What about games that we know are probably or most likely or 100% coming out, but we don't know no dates? Well, I have 5 games here that I've looked online to check and make sure to see if they come out this year, and apparently these are all going to come out, and they're games that I want to see. First of all, the PlayStation 5 next-gen game Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Haven't played Assassin's Creed since, I think, Black Flag. It's been quite a long time, and what really has me interested in this one is the whole Viking aspect of it. I'm a big fan of Vikings, a big fan of Norse mythology, so having a game with that theme and having Assassin's Creed with that theme just really hits me in the right spot. And I've always liked the Assassin's Creed series, even though I haven't played much of them recently, but I've always liked the games that really hit with the culture that I loved. For instance, the Assassin's Creed 3 took place in revolutionary America. I thought they didn't pull off what I would hope they would in some ways, but they did pull off some of it really well. I think they'll do a better job with this one, so I'm really looking forward to that. A game that's been announced, but we don't know a date, but apparently is this year, is Blade Runner Enhanced Edition. This is a enhanced remake of the original Blade Runner PC game that came out, 20 years ago? Maybe longer than that. It was just recently re-released by GOG Games, the CD Projekt Red's online service, which I picked up last year because I had a copy a long time ago, but it's in America and only on PC. Wanted to play it on my Mac. and thankfully I can. But this one is going to be coming to the consoles, and it's going to have new graphics, and it's going to look better. And it's basically a point-and-click adventure series that takes place around the same time as the Blade Runner movie. You see the same characters, you interact with them, you interact with the world, and it was a really fun game that came out back then. It was from Westwood Studios, not Westworld. Westworld is that show on HBO. Westwood Studios, the people who made Command and Conquer, which also just had a remaster, and I still want to play that game, but I don't have a PC. But yeah, Blade Runner Enhanced Edition, when that game comes out, it's going to be an instant buy for me. It was a great game before, and it's a great game now, and it's going to even be a great game in the future. The next one is Carrion. This was a game that Devolver Digital showcased last year in their E3 presentation, where instead of playing a hero fighting a monster, you play this monster that's destroying things inside like labs. It's really creepy, like a blob type monster. Everything about it looks really cool. The 2D world looks fantastic. Looks really creepy. Looks really something like I would want to play. This play is like an evil monster from a monster movie. Now, I was very disappointed early in the year when I found out this game was not coming to the PlayStation 4. It was apparently an Xbox exclusive, and I was very disappointed about that. But recently it was announced to be on the Switch, which makes me very happy because I love playing these type of games on the Switch, so I'll get a chance to play it. But we don't know when it's coming out. But Devolver Digital today did say they're going to have their big show that they do every year in a few weeks online, so hopefully we'll hear something about that. The next game, this game came out on the PC last year, and everyone praised it as one of the best games last year, and all I know about it is an RPG, and it's called Disco Elysium, I believe. And the one thing I've learned over the last few years is whenever someone talks about an RPG on the PC that's really, really, really good and highly praised and gets ported to consoles, I like it. Like, for instance, the Divinity Original Sin series. Those are great games, and I'm glad to be able to play it. So I don't know a lot about it, but it's definitely a game I'm going to look into. So that's what I'm interested in. And the last one that I can talk about for certain that I'm really interested in is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Again, a PlayStation 5 exclusive from Sony. A huge surprise that was shown in their PlayStation 5 unveil. It's not a sequel to Spider-Man, the game that came out, but it's more of an extension of it, sort of like a mid-ground, like a Spider-Man 1.5, where you take the reins of Miles Morales, the other character who has the superpowers other than Peter Parker, who becomes Spider-Man himself. And I really like the Miles Morales character. I didn't really know much about the character until playing both the game Spider-Man that came out on the PlayStation a couple years ago, as well as the Into the Spider-Verse movie, and I think he's a really great character, and I'm looking forward to be able to play as him in the game. The Spider-Man game was a lot of fun. It was just a simple, fun, great action game, and it's going to be, I think, even better on PlayStation 5 with all the things they can do with that. So those are the games that I'm looking forward to as we continue on 2020. Obviously, there's going to be a lot more announcements. There's going to be a lot of Japanese games that get released that we don't know yet that I'm going to be interested in. But that's the best thing about gaming right now is that there's a lot of uncertainty. We really don't know much news because everything's been delayed because of this whole pandemic situation. So because of that, I'm going to give you some of my predictions for the year. And I'm going to say this right now. These are my predictions on how I feel things are going to go. I'm not saying that this is going to be for every person, but I really do feel that this is how I feel things are going to go on. So number one, let's talk about Nintendo. And I think Nintendo will sometime soon, very soon, will finally start unveiling their 2020 lineup, and I think they're going to surprise us more than we expected. Obviously, they already started with a huge surprise of a new Paper Mario game that's coming out later this month. That was announced last month in a surprise announcement. Nintendo apparently before said there wasn't any plans for a big Nintendo Direct this summer, but that they would be announcing games over the time. I really do expect they will. There's been a lot of rumors, of course, that have kind of died down about a Mario 3D remaster collection that might come out. There's even talk about Metroid Prime Trilogy getting a re-release on the Switch. But regarding new games, we haven't heard much. I mean, the last new game that we haven't heard from lately is Breath of the Wild 2. I doubt that game's coming out anytime soon. but I do think Nintendo's holding in some cards. They need some good releases to come out this year. Obviously, they've been riding the wave on the incredible Animal Crossing, which has just passed 5 million sold in Japan, which is unbelievable. So it'll be interesting to see what they show and what they bring to the table in the next few months. But I do think that they're going to show us a lot of things that are going to wow us and just destroy our brains, and just like we're going to be like, our minds explode, because Nintendo does that. Nintendo likes to hold their announcements and shock us with some great news, and I think that they've been holding on to it too long. It's time for them to talk about it. All right, number 2, I'm going to talk about the next gen systems now, and these are my big predictions for the next generation system. Number 1 for that is that I think the next generation systems, both the Sony PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and I guess Series whatever they call it, the Lockheed or whatever it's called, the lesser version, I'm going to say right now those are going to come out in November. At least the Series X and the PlayStation 5, those are definitely going to come out in November. They both could have come out a lot earlier, but it seemed like November is always the right time. It's been the more traditional time game systems have come out from Microsoft and Sony the last few generations, and considering the current situation, it's probably best to push it aside. Now I'm going to say one more thing. I would not be shocked at all if the launch is delayed because of certain reasons about what's going on in the world right now. But who knows how that will go on. So, but I'm going to say right now, November's looking good. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I still am a little worried about Japan, particularly PlayStation 5. When the PlayStation 4 was launched, it got delayed in Japan for 2-3 months. It came out in late February compared to November, the rest of the world. So we had to wait a while to get it, and I wouldn't be surprised if that happened again. Number 2, I think that Sony will match Microsoft's price, and that both the systems are going to come out at a similar price. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sony tried to undercut Microsoft. We're hearing a lot of rumors that Microsoft absolutely does not want to be more expensive than the PlayStation 5, and they're going to do everything they can to be cheaper. But we also know that it is a more powerful system, and sometimes more powerful systems can be more expensive. But we did know that the Microsoft Xbox One was the least powerful system of them all this generation in terms of the PlayStation versus Xbox, and it was more expensive than the PlayStation 4. Of course, the Kinect didn't help with that because it was an expensive device. But I think Sony is going to at least match the offer that Microsoft gives. The question is, who's going to say it first? Who's going to blink first? And if they do, if Sony announces first and then Microsoft announces the lowest price, will they counter? I wouldn't be surprised if they would. I think they would. So yeah, I think they're going to be similar prices, and I think it's going to be, again, up to the gamers to decide what system they want. And my final prediction for the next 6 months regarding the next-gen systems is that I believe that for me, not necessarily for you, not necessarily for any other viewer, but for me, Microsoft will once again fail to excite me or convince me that they have learned their lessons from over the years and will get me interested in an Xbox Series X. Let me say something right now. I was a huge fan of the original Xbox, and I loved the Xbox 360 in its early years. But from the midpoint of the Xbox 360's lifespan to now, I felt that Microsoft has made mistake after mistake after mistake, and particularly being a person who lives in Japan, they have completely lost the entire story and the entire discussion regarding how to deal with the system releasing in Japan. It's very disappointing because, hey, this is a great system, no doubt. It has great power and it has the possibility to be popular, but they just don't know how to grasp what certain gamers want, particularly gamers like myself who live in Japan, or Japanese gamers in general. They simply can't get it done. And Phil Spencer has been more talk than walk. I would love for him to finally show us all these things he's been talking about, saying how great everything is. And particularly, my thing is, he's always talked about how important Japan is. He's talking about how important Japan is to Xbox. it's time to show it. It's time to show it both in the products you're going to bring out, in exclusives you might have, and also how are you going to sell your system in Japan? Because you know what? If you can fix those problems, I will be interested in going back and buying another Xbox system in the future. But if you can't, I'm simply going to say PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. And I honestly don't have much faith in what Microsoft have to do. But my final prediction is I do think that there's going to be a lot of games that will be delayed, unfortunately, this fall, as we've seen already a lot of games being delayed as there is. We're going to see a lot more delays to go on. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if many of the games I talked about in my no date situation may end up getting delayed themselves. Thankfully, all the July games are going to be okay. I think the August and September games should be okay, but who knows? Who knows about Cyberpunk? You know, they've said it that they were done before. They just need to do bug hunting, and then they're saying it again. Who's to say it doesn't happen again in November? But I hope that not too many games are delayed, but that we are in a really weird situation. But I do think we're going to see a lot more delays. Anyway, that is my look ahead at the next 6 months of 2020. My biggest wish, of course, is that everything starts to go back to normal in due time. Very difficult with what's going on right now, but hopefully we can get through this whole mess the next few months. And hopefully also we can enjoy some great gaming experiences. We're obviously going to go ahead into the next generation. It is a transitional year. It hasn't been the greatest transitional year, but we've had some good games so far, and I'm sure we're going to have some more. As always, if you like this video, click on the like. If you dislike this video, click on the dislike. That's fine. You can leave a comment or a question in the comments, and I will definitely get to answering them in a future video. Please hit subscribe if you like, because obviously I'm going to be talking more about things here on video games. And like I said yesterday, I'm going to try and talk more about Japan as well. I have some topics I'd like to talk about regarding living in Japan, because living in Japan is something that is really, really a fun thing, but it's also a challenge. And I know there's a lot of people that have always wanted to do it, and hopefully I can help. Anyway, until next time, please take care, stay safe, have a good day, and enjoy your gaming. See you later.
Reiwa Gaming Matt. Mata mite ne.